Hey everyone, this is me, Undead Viking. I'm excited to talk to you about this game. It's called Fired Up Eternal Moments. I'm sorry I don't have a game box, so I just have this picture on my tablet to show it to you. Fired Up Eternal Moments is, the theme of the game is that in the future, every 10 years, all of these futuristic space colonies choose one champion from their colony, and they send it to this big giant battle arena where they'll all do battle all against each other to determine which space colony has bragging rights, if you will. And for the next 10 years, they have those bragging rights. And when I heard about this game, I was really excited because I was, oh, okay, so it's like a Dice Hero, which I love Dice Heroes. But it was a game that I was like, oh, so I get to, control this big bruiser, in a space colony, or that gets sent off in like some Kumite, kickboxer-esque Van Damme type thing. But no, actually, what it turned out to be was, no, you're a person that's just watching the fight, and you are trying to make sure that you have these wonderful signature moments, these eternal moments, hence the name of the game, that will excite you or just make you happy, because those are the things that you want to see. You want to have these memories of this epic battle that your colony and other colonies are going to engage in, and whether or not your particular warrior does well. I mean, it's good if they do well, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you win if they do well. But I'll talk more about that in a little bit. I found the game to be very, very intriguing and very, very fun. It was one of those things where I talk about puzzle games a lot, and this is definitely a puzzle game. It's a situation where you're going to be rolling dice that are going to give you the resources or give you the actions that you have available to you. And then you have to pick and choose those dice and then weigh the results of those dice on how to influence the fighters, the actual people that are actually going to be doing the battle, like either buffing them up or weakening them, to make sure that the moments or the experiences that you yourself are looking for, not everybody at the table, each person has their own signature ideas, things that they want to see. You're going to want to make sure that those things happen and put the people, the warriors that are in the arena, into the situation where you're hoping that those results occur. So there you go. I mean, that's kind of like the overarching theme. So why don't I show you how the game is played? It should take a little bit of time. It has a couple of different phases, and there is some quirkiness to it that is, good quirkiness, mind you. And then we'll come back here and I'll talk to you more about why I'm really having a lot of fun playing Fired Up. All right, cool. Alright, this is a 3-player game of Fired Up that I have set up, and I'm going to kind of go through how the game is played so you have a good idea of what you're getting into the first time that you sit down to play this game. Now, one of the important concepts of this game is that you are not the fighters. These are the fighters that are in the ring that are battling it out. You are not them. Now, one of them might represent your colony, your futuristic space colony, and that's why this player is green, and you can tell that one's green and blue and yellow. But you don't technically win or lose because of how well your fighter does. You are going to mostly win or lose depending upon how you are going to get your cards scored. These are what's called a moment cards. So basically what you're saying is in this game you are a spectator watching this futuristic combat, and you want to see certain things happen during the fight. And if you see those things happen during the fight, and if you influence those things to happen during the fight, then you will then earn points for doing so. Now, there's 2 types of cards for that. There are the normal cards here. These are just normal moment cards. And then each person gets what's called an eternal moment card as well. And these are like end game, big time things that can happen that get you excited. And so each person gets one of those. And so you hopefully you can turn those in for points. And so here's if a fighter gets knocked out because of their wounds, then you would earn the points for this particular card. That would be something big. And that's any fighter. Now, it doesn't have to be, it could be your own fighter, from your own colony that happens to. In this case, packing early. It's worth 5 points, and the fighter from your colony is the first to be knocked out. So maybe, for whatever reason, you want to see your own fighter lose, and if that happens, you earn extra points for that. So there's stuff like that. Now, also, each person's going to start off with 5 of these cards, and these cards are going to have, just like certain things that are going to happen. Like a fighter with a neutral morale gets counterattacked. Now these are like things that like statuses and things like that I'll explain in further detail in a little bit when I show you how to play the game. But just, for example, that. And this little marker over here tells you how much energy you have to spend to actually flip this card over and say, I'm going to score these 2 points at the end of the game. Or devastating hit. The attacker deals at least 4 damage in a fight. So that's worth 3, and so forth, and like that. And so you're going to have a bunch of these cards, and you get 5 of them to start off with. And as the game progresses, you're able to get more of those cards into your hand. But any one time, the maximum number of cards you can have in your hand is 5. So, the very first thing you're going to do, the very first turn of the game, is your planning phase. And now during the planning phase, you can spend energy to draw another one of these moment cards. You can't, you only get one of these big time, like eternal moment cards, but you do have those other ones that are these moment cards. And for 1 energy, you can draw a card, or for 1 energy, you can draw 1 card and discard a card from your hand when you draw the card. Now, you can do each of those if you wish, but you can't do spend 3 energy to draw 3 cards or anything like that. But you are able to do that. And keep in mind that your maximum hand total is 5. So, now, after you've done that, you have your cards in your hand, then you have to set up your active moment cards. So of the 5 cards that you have to pick 1 that you're going to put face down in front of you, and the rest you put like in your hand or keep in the other side. So you can put 1 in front of you, and if you want to, you can spend 2 energy tokens to place a second one down. So the maximum you can have 2 cards in front of you, but if you want to, the first one is free, but if the second one costs 2, and these are the energy tokens, I should have mentioned that, but these are like 1s, and these are 2s, and these are 5s, so you can collect those. But, so that's like how you activate the certain cards that you're going to go for, that you want to see happen during the next like round of fighting that's going to happen. So after you're done with that, what you're going to do is you're going to influence the fighters. Now, to influence the fighters, you have these purple dice, and these are the influence dice. And each player has 6 of these little tokens that have these little dice on them. And on their turn, what they'll do is they'll roll these dice, and you get 1 reroll. After you roll once, and then you can reroll some of your dice, or all of them, or none of them, if whatever you want. And then you decide which dice that you want to keep, and you're going to use their effects. Now, so I'm just going to kind of roll these really quick here, just drop them there. And so each one of these little stats has a certain ability on it. And I got a wide variety here, and it's going to be kind of tough to see. But like these, any result like this is a morale token, or a morale influence. And so when you have a morale influence, you're going to take 1 of your influence tokens, and you're either going to place it on the plus or the minus of the morale of a certain fighter. Now that's important because morale is important, because the higher the morale of the fighter, the greater they can get on their strength, their power, and their defense. Like when they're fighting, you start off at the lowest, at a fairly low rate. Like this one starting at a defense of 3 and a power of 2. This one starting out at a 3 and a 3, and this one starting at a 2 and a 2. And as you move up, and it might be tough to see, but the lower numbers are purple, the middle numbers are white, and the top numbers are yellow. And you might notice over here that there's, if you're like low morale is purple, neutral morale is white, and high morale, or good morale, like you're cheering for yourself, is yellow. And you're probably guessing there's a synergy there. So you have to have high morale to get your scores up into yellow. And if you have low morale, the highest possible you can be is in that purple range. So if you do that, you're going to go ahead and place a token, either cheering or jeering for a fighter, and place that on there when you have a morale result on one of those dice. Now this is called a target. Now what that is that all of these fighters, since they're all in the ring at the same time, it's a free-for-all. What you have is you have these little colored cubes that represent the colors of who they're fighting. They don't have one for themselves, but they have them for the other 2 fighters. And when you have one of those, what you will do is you take one of the cubes and you move it up 1. Now on the very bottom, what happens there is that they aren't interested in fighting either of the people that that are, you know, like if both the cubes end up there at the beginning of the fight, they're not going to fight anybody. They might defend themselves against somebody who attacks them, but they're not going to actively seek out and fight. You need to get these cubes up into the higher level. Now, they're only going to fight the person that they have the highest level of cube on. And the interesting thing is the very top of it is what's called locked in. So like if you get a cube up all the way to there, that means the fighter is locked in and they're definitely going to fight that. Only one cube can maintain that locked in position. So there, you know they're going to fight that person once you get into the fight time of the battle. If you have two cubes that end up in the same spot, they will target the fighter that has the lowest speed rating, and the speed rating is located up here on this particular band, that little green band over there. Now, you might be wondering, well, how do you increase the speed? Well, you increase the speed by these little feather results that are on the dice. And so each one of these will increase the speed by 1 until you get to a 4, because a 4, and this isn't the same for every particular fighter. Like Bruno the Bull is slow, so, you know, and that's kind of the neat thing about these, all these fighters, and there's more than just these 3. They have, you know, several more that you can play with, and, you know, here they are. But if there's more than one speed, like little feather up there, that means you have to have, you know, 2 of those results to increase it to that level. But then the higher the speed you go, though, the quicker they're going to be, and they're going to be like attack first and things like that as well. So another thing that you have is just, if you get this result, it's 2 little energy tokens. You just get 2 energy tokens if you decide to use that particular side of the die. This one's a little strong, like a little arm and like curled up in a bicep pull there. What that does is it will increase either the defense or the strength, the power, depending on one of the fighters. You pick one and you move it up. Now, and then, let me make sure, there's one other one here I want to show you. So if you get this result, you can either choose to take 1 energy token, or you can use one other die that you rolled and have its effect applied twice. And so that's, you know, what that will do. So what happens is that you're going to look at your dice, and you're going to decide which ones you want to use that you've rolled. And then you pick a fighter that's down here. And when you pick the fighter that you influence, you have to take this little token that's on the bottom and you move it up, like so, to show that you've influenced that. That's important because once that token gets all the way up to that pause, this little, like 2 bars there showing the pause sign, that means that that particular fighter can't be influenced anymore. And so, you know, it's like, so if you want to make sure that if you have plans for a certain fighter, you want to get your influence into them before they reach that particular location on their little board on the bottom here. Now, the interesting thing also is that when you actually, you know, you'll put tokens up here for the morale, but when you actually decide that you're going to use dice, you then will flip over your tokens to show. So if you use 3 dice in this roll, say like we used morale, and we use these 2 power ones. And so we're like, because our goal is here, we're gonna increase the morale of Alexia, and then we're gonna get her morale up so we can actually have her power up higher. So then we're gonna move her power up 2 like that. And that's what we did. So we've used 1 token and used those 2 tokens, and now we pass and go on to the next player, and then they roll the dice and do the same thing. Now when it comes back to our turn here, we're gonna roll 3 dice because we only have 3 of those particular locations open. So you roll those 3, and then you see, and remember, you get a re-roll. So if you didn't like those, you can re-roll them again. And then you can apply that. And then you, once again, would turn tokens over. Say you take 2 of those dice and use them. You influence, because we influenced her once, let's say we influenced her again, and so we wanted to increase her speed, and so we did that. And then we increased her power 1 more time, so like so. But we didn't want to use this one, so we're not going to do that. And now we're going to wait 1 more turn. Now, if at any time you want to just not roll dice when it's your turn, you can choose to pass. You turn over all the rest of the markers that you have, and you get an energy token for each one that you turn over. Now, this continues until everybody has used up all of their tokens one way or the other. If you still have tokens left, and the fighters have all reached this level over here, you don't get to influence anybody, and then you don't actually get the energy tokens for having ones that are left over. Because if you're forced into having to pass, you don't get energy tokens for that. Now, one other thing I want to mention before I move over to the actual fighting is that there are these boards over here. And these boards have special powers that allow you to use during the process of this influence phase. So like they can have, and they all have energy token costs. So like here it says reroll 1 extra time in the influence phase. So let's say you rerolled your 1 time and you didn't like it, so you reroll again. And so then you because you want to, you spend an energy token to do that. Here's one that just straightforward, decrease the defense power of your chosen fighter by 1. So pick a fighter, decreases their defense by 1. So on and so forth like that. So you go through the whole thing, and then what happens is that you're going to decide, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to like notice any effects that possibly can happen as far as like the morale goes. So if you have morale tokens, let me just put some out here. Let's say, and we had one over here, and let's say we had here, and then 2 yellow ones over here. So like so. So what you're going to do then is you're going to look at each one, and then you're going to see how the morale worked. And so this one, he got jeered. So he's going to have a lower morale. So we put like the purple, like he's down. He's like, oh, you know, that's kind of cool actually. Here, I'll show you that close up. So the token has him all drooped over because he's sad on the side, and then over on this side, you know, he's all, woohoo, I'm doing well. So, but this one, he's doing poorly. And so if we had maybe increased those up because he's jeered, we have to immediately drop those back down to the level of the purple, because he can't have anything higher than that. Now, in this case, we managed to, you know, make her happy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put, you know, the cheer on there as well, so to show that you know, she's been enthused by the crowd, and we can leave. Say we got these up, even our defense up to 5 into the yellow, and so those will stay the same. Now, it should be noted that if she had like her defense on a 1, just because she's got the crowd behind her and her morale is high, that doesn't mean you increase it up. You only will ever decrease the stat on those. Now over here we have something in particular because of the fact that we have green tried to lower the morale of this one, but yellow tried to raise it by 2. So in this case you just even it out. So in this case what you have is you have you know, 2 positive and 1 negative, so it's 1 positive, and so then it is a positive result. And so it wasn't neutral, so we're going to go ahead and it'll be happy. Now, if like we had 1 negative that reduces it, you would just then go to neutral. And then like if you decreased it again, like you would go down to negative. It isn't a situation where it will revert completely one way or the other, unless you actually have a change in morale of 3, either positive or negative. So if you had a fighter that was, you know, cheering the crowds behind them, and then you got actually 3 negative points on them, no matter what, it automatically goes down and they are sad. But if you only get 1 or 2 negative, you only go down 1 step. That's important to, you know, like remember that. It's like, and that works for positive as well. So if you have somebody who's all sad and you get 3 positive on them, you immediately flip that over in the morale to the positive reaction. Pretty straightforward, but it's important to note that you know that does change like that radically and can change that quickly. So now, after you've done with all the influence, you actually will go into the fight phase of the game. And so what will happen then, and now remember, at any point during this game, if you have one or two of the moment cards or your eternal moment card comes true, you have to spend energy that's on that card to turn it over for the points. But the battling is fun. You're going to take, and like for each one of these, so let's say he got blue up there and that's it. We had green locked in, you know, so, and then this one has blue, like so. And let me just, I'm manufacturing this, you know, or non-organically, if you will, but I just want to make sure that, you know, we can kind of see what happens. So first thing you do is you check speed. And so the top speed person, Alexia, will go first. She has a speed of 3 in this particular battle, and so we're going to go ahead and look. And she's locked in on green. She's going to fight green. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take all of Alexia's battle dice, and she has 5. And then we're going to look at her special power. It says, any unblocked arm inflicts no damage to Alexia, but can still cause a wound. So let's just go ahead and roll the attack dice for her and see what we get here. So we're going to roll those attack dice, and we're just going to put those right there. And then we're going to roll the 2 defense dice that Boris has, because he's only got a defense of 2 in this particular round. So we roll the 2, and so we're going to compare. So Boris got a leg and a chest, so he can defend against 1 leg or 1 chest attack. Now Alexia got lucky and she got 2 of these stars, so those are automatic hits, so she's going to do some automatic damage. And then we divvy these up. And so she got a leg, an arm, and a head. And so we then say, okay, well, he's got this leg and a leg, so he's going to defend against that. And he's got a chest, but he doesn't have any of the other ones that can defend against that. And so we're going to go ahead and look. So that's 2 damage. That's 1 to the head and 1 to the arm. And then those are going to do damage to Boris. And so we count up those. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. We reduce those, and he's taken 4 points of damage from that attack. I should mention the defense dice have a result that is also special, and that is this, and that can block any location that is attacked, but it can't block the special hits that you get on the red attack dice. Now, there is a special effect that can happen when the attacker rolls 3 dice that are of the attack the same location. So let's say we rolled, like we have a leg here, let's just put 3 legs together. So we got 1 leg, 2 leg, and 3 leg attacks, like so. And we keep the 2 rolls that we had already. And so we have the 2 here, and we have these 3 leg, and we took those. It would still, because of the fact that we block 1 leg, we'd still take the 2, from the 2 that we didn't block, and then the 2 special, and so we'd reduce his stamina by 4. However, because the attacker got 3 results of the same type, that causes a wound. And so then we go ahead and place a wound on Boris, like so. You have 3 wounds capability of taking. If you take your 3rd wound, you're knocked unconscious. You are also knocked unconscious when you're reduced down to 0 on your stamina as well. And so so it isn't. I remember when I first read this, I played it wrong the very first time. I thought, oh, well, I blocked 1, so I guess it's only 2 dice, so I don't take a wound. No, as long as they rolled 3 of the exact same type, that wound will still occur. Now, in the occasion where, like, let's say they got 1 leg, and I rolled 2 legs on the fight, like so, because of the fact that you actually the defender actually gets more of a result than the attacker, 2 legs in defense against the 1 leg of attack, the attacker will actually take a point of damage from that as well. Because of the fact that you blocked the 1, and then you still have 1 there, and then you're going to go ahead and get the hit. Now notice, that only happens when you actually have competing dice of the same location. If I roll for defense, say that like I rolled that torso and my opponent didn't roll any torso, that's just a wasted defense. It doesn't do any good for me. The interesting thing is that if you roll the special defense, like so, and you decide to apply them both to like 1 leg, that actually will cause a wound as well. So where, I shouldn't say wound, but it will actually cause a stamina damage to occur to the attacker as well. So something to keep in mind. All right, so then Alexia is done with their attack, and so now we move to the next possible speed. And I just wanted to point this out just so you know. So in this situation, you are going to look, we have a guy who's speed 2 and a guy who is speed 2 as well. So now the question is, which one of those 2 will go first? That is decided by the fighter's reflexes. And the reflexes is this score up here. It's like a 47, a 26, and a 28. Whoever has the highest reflexes will break ties in every situation. It's just like it's considered, reflexes are just kind of like you're considered to be better. If your reflexes score is higher than your opponent's, you're just considered to have be better in all aspects. And so when it comes down to things that you have to check, and people have equal scores in stats, and you have to compare those things, you are going to always go to the reflexes score, and that will be better. So in this case, since they both have speed 2, you say who will go first? Well, Bruno has a 47 to Boris's 28, and because of that, he will attack first. And so he was going to attack Alexia, and so then we go through the process of him rolling his attack, and like his attack value is 3, and her defense would be 5, and so forth. We go through that process. Now, each person gets an attack unless they get knocked out. If a fighter gets knocked out, you're going to take their board here, and you're going to flip it over, and you are going to go ahead and give their ranking. So, like, whoever's knocked out first, and this is up to 5 players, so there could be up to, like, 5 different fighters in the thing. So, like, you're knocked out first, that would be, like, you put their score there, 3, and then 2, and then 1. The person who gets 1 is the person who's left standing. And then you also put a colored cube of the person that knocked them out. So, let's say later on Bruno gets knocked out by Boris, and like, he got knocked out first. So, we take, we're going to go ahead and take a cube and just say, yeah, he got knocked out like first, And we take a green cube because Boris is green, and then we're going to say he got knocked out and by him. And so we can kind of just, and then we keep going. Now the game will continue until there's one fighter left standing, and then we're going to go ahead and figure out who wins the game when that occurs. Because, yes, I mean, you do have a situation here where battling, there is fighting going on in the game, but ultimately this is a victory point game. So at the end of the game, you are going to score all the points that you get for all the cards, the moment cards, including your Eternal Moment and your Normal Moment cards. You get the Fired Up points, which are those points over there, the victory points. You get to total up all of those. You get to total up your Eternal Moment cards as well. If you have actually fulfilled all of your moment cards, you get a bonus of 2 points. So if you pulled that off, you get a bonus of 2 points. And you score 1 extra point for each fighter who got knocked out by the fighter of your colony. And then also the first place fighter, if it's from your colony, you get 3 points. The second place fighter, you get 2 points if it's from your colony. And for third place, you get 1 point. And then fourth and fifth place get 0. And so you just total up the points, and whoever has the most points will win the game of Fired Up. So, you know, this game, it was not what I expected. Actually, when I heard about it, and I heard that it was like a fighting game with dice and battling dice, I was like, wow, you know, I was kind of excited to check it out. I love games where, like, players have variable powers and different things you can do. But then when I got it, it was, you know, a combination of both. Like kind of it was a really, really good dice Euro that had a lot of different things going on, a lot of really awesome little puzzles that you had to figure out in each turn that you played. And so, you know, it was one of those interesting things where, yes, it is a fighting game, but it is a, like, spectating fighting game. I mean, I could see, you know, if, like, this had been, like, themed with, like, you know, it could just as easily themed with, like, professional wrestling or things like that, because of the fact that, you have, like, a stable of wrestlers or whatever that you're a fan of or something like that, and you want to, like, make sure they win and things like that. And so, you know, I dig the theme, and I like the idea of this, like, futuristic tournament or whatever. And I really liked just the fact that it was more of like a spectator, like a battle spectator puzzle game, if you will. It's a theme that I never even thought of that even existed, and I'm always pleased when I run into games that have genuine new themes to me. So with that, and just with, like, the whole the resource, you know, kind of resource allocation that goes on, and, you know, the dice, and, like, being able to do different influence actions and everything else, I found myself really intrigued by this game, really puzzled by this game, and I found myself really enjoying every single time that I played it. So, but I'll talk more about all that in my conclusion, which I will do right now. Alright, thank you very much for taking the time to watch the video. I appreciate you sitting through that. There's 2 things I realized after I got done, 2 things that I want to talk about the rules as far as they go. These tiles, these tiles that you can use those little special powers for to, like, affect when you're going through the process of the influence, those do get raffled through. That's why I had that other stack. You do replace those and you know, go through those in the game. So those are actually, like, dynamic, and they are fluid as far as changing. So, like, tiles that you can't count on certain tiles being there, you know, forever or whatever. So, and that's good though, because that allows a lot of different variability and a lot of different change as far as the game is concerned. The other thing is that I forgot to mention that when you are actually picking your 1 or 2 moment cards that you want to use, like, you get the one for free, but you have to pay the 2 energy to get the other one. When you put these down, you can't have the same ones. So you can't, like, have, you know, like, the exact same result, which is these 2 right here, devastating hit. You can't have 2 devastating hit ones down and, like, you know, double down on, like, making sure that the attacker deals at least 4 damage in a fight. You know, so that's something you have to count on as well, or as far as, like, those have to be different. So I apologize, I forgot to mention that, but, you know, just want to make sure you understood that. Anyway, so as I said, I really dig the game. I dig the theme. I dig the fact that it is a brand new theme to me. I mean, the theme itself technically is kind of out there and kind of straightforward. You know, futuristic battle arena. Yeah, we've talked about those games before, but this is not a futuristic battle arena game. This could be, like I said, it could have been professional wrestling. It could have been betting on, you know, like the space chess that you that you see Chewbacca playing against R2-D2. I mean, it could have been any of those things where there's a battle and you are on the outside looking in and basically kind of wagering on that fight, you know, and so that's what this game is about. But it is one of those things where it's like you aren't like really fighting your neighbors, but you are like in a tug of war with them, trying to make sure that your like results are going to happen. You want certain fighters to be faster than the others. You want certain fighters to be stronger than the others. You want to push the match into the position so you can cash in on what you want. You want, like, you know, just that devastating strike. You want to make sure that the fighter is going to, one, be focused in on a fighter that is weak, doesn't have a lot of power, and you want to make sure that fighter has a lot of strength. So when they do fight, the chances of the one fighter doing a ton of damage, doing 4 or more damage in one attack, will occur, and then you can turn in and cash in that card for those points. And I mean, that's just one example. Here, let me just grab a card at random here. So, like, here's one that says the attacker and defender each roll at least one fail die. So I mean, that's completely random, you know, as far as how is that going to happen. Both dice have these little spots, and I didn't mention that actually too, that have a blank. A blank is just a fail. It doesn't do anything. It isn't necessarily good or bad. It just means that the die actually turns out being nothing. But like, so how does that happen? Well, you know, like in that case when we had this card, like when I had it, I tried to make sure that both the attacker and the defender had a ton of dice. So like I made sure that like the attacker had like 5 dice, the defender had 5 dice. So I upped the chances of that possibility coming to fruition, because you never want to activate a card and then not have it happen. That's one of those, like, when you put a card forward as one of those that you can possibly score, you want to make sure that you score that card, especially if you spend 2 extra energy to have it out there as well. And so you have that. You have, I mean, it's just like a puzzle. And then I do like the fact that it isn't completely deterministic. It is a battle. It is chaotic. You can't always count on things happening, and then you also can't always count on your people that you're playing against, like, kind of falling in line and doing the same things you want to do, right? And so it's this wonderful like tension game because of the fact that, yes, you're constantly trying to push, like, you know, these things into a row that you want them to be. You want this guy to be fast, you want this guy to be slow, you want this guy to be weak, you want this guy to have low morale, things like that. And then the other players are constantly kind of pushing against those things as well. So you kind of try to push your battles. And so this is also one of those games too where, you know, maybe like the first time you roll the dice, you roll influence dice, you only use 1 influence die. You know, because you have to use at least 1. You can't just use none. But you'll use 1 influence die, and you wait and see what other people do, and see what they're going to do, and what you know, fighters they're going to influence. And then also because of the fact that the fighter's going to be influenced a certain number of times, you can do that, use that to your effect. You can do certain things to, like, kind of, you know, like push, like use 1 die on a fighter, so then, like, you can take away the chances of somebody influencing it more, and you just, so they can't, you know, do what they want to do with that fighter. You know, so I mean, there's all these different strategies, all these different things, and different avenues that you can take that you will, to try to get the end result, which is, of course, cashing in the most cards to get the most points, that sort of thing. So, you know, it's just, it's one of those games that, like, when you play it for the first time, it's like you'll kind of wonder, the first round, you'll kind of wonder what's really going on, and then the kind of game just blossoms and opens up for you, and you realize, wow, you know, this game's got a lot going on. And then you realize, and then you get done playing it, and you start thinking, well, what could you have done differently? And that's the kind of thing that I like. I like the game that sticks with me after I'm done, because that's what puts it back on the table afterwards. And it doesn't hurt that, like I said, it's colorful, it's got great art, and plus, like I said, the whole idea of this, you know, the space battle arena. I mean, that's just a fun theme, and I dig it, you know. So there you go. If you have any questions about Fired Up, please ask away. I'll answer those to the best of my ability. Thank you as always for taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, I am the Undead Viking, and I'm hoping that you have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye.